They call him a bully, a big guy. So these others got together and killed the man.
McElroy's wife, Trina, says she knows who killed her husband, but police refuse to act. Investigators say her story does not check out.
I know that there are people who know who shot Ken McElroy, but in all those years, no one has ever talked.
You're absolutely positive it was Del Clements who shot your
Yes,
husband?
I seen him shoot it.
Sure, I believe her. No reason not to.
People's afraid to say what they see because they're afraid what's going to happen to them and their family.
Why did the grand jury not believe Mrs. McElroy? I do not have an answer.
Trina's a liar. Let's make it plain.
I believe that there was a major cover-up here, not only by law enforcement, but of all the people in that town.
No one talked. Everyone stuck together.
They went in, they had a town meeting, they all sat down together, they decided that they were going to do it, and they done it.
They're not going to do anything in that county.
This is the reason why I'm getting a hold of the FBI, because I do not think Nottoway is going to try to do anything.
Because there was a question about whether there was a conspiracy to kill McElroy, and the sheriff was present, it was necessary for the federal government to investigate.
I know the sheriff and them were involved. I don't care what anyone has to say, whether it ever comes to light. I know they were involved.
I have no sympathy for Ken Rex or what he had in his head. He scared this poor community half to death, to the point that they felt they had no alternative to do other than what they did. Did they have an alternative? I guess we all have alternatives. But I certainly, having lived within the county during the time that he was seen as a menace to the county, and feeling some of the things that I did, I carried a gun to protect myself and my family during that time. I never have at other times. So he brought out the worst in me. So he may have been guilty, but they were guilty as well. They were guilty of being vigilantes.
Yeah, Bruce? Kirby Gosley, how you doing? Could I get a key to the museum? Oh, there's the whoppies. These aren't too bad. The ones that are yellow and black striped, they'll keep stinging you. You stay back. Now, watch out for that snake. Well, we're in the old Skidmore depot, which when they shut the train down, they decided to make a museum out of this building. Around 1870, Martin E. Skidmore founded the town. and the railroad was here. And he put up a grist mill, and once you had that, then you could have everything else.
Small town living, that's how we all started.
Small town community, everybody knew everybody, and I think everybody pretty much loved everybody. You don't have to worry about your door being locked. You didn't have to worry about someone stealing your car. You didn't have to worry about any of that.
Small towns embody the American dream. But there's also a dark side.
If we go back in Nottoway County history, and you look at Skidmore, they always did their own thing. They wanted to be independent, and unfortunately, there was a culture of violence in the area.
Raymond Gunn lived here in Nottoway County, and there was a school teacher in the area that was hit on the head and killed as she was working after school. And Raymond Gunn was the one charged with that death.
And Raymond had a history. He'd already been arrested and convicted of an assault against a female student. So when things would happen, he was the first one they'd turn to. Here you have a black man tied to a murder of a white school teacher, whether he was guilty of the crime or not. That was probably enough for them to decide what they wanted to do.
That morning, he was being taken to the courthouse to be charged with the murder. And there's this huge crowd gathered, and the sheriff pulls right into the middle of that. He delivered the man to the mob, that's all I can say.
A group of vigilantes took him from the sheriff's control and paraded him through the countryside.
They took him through fences, hedgerows, and everything else. And my granddad and my uncle was up there when they broke him out of jail. And then they took him out there and chained him up on top of the schoolhouse.
They cut holes in the roof of the schoolhouse and that they could then put his legs through, then chained his feet together, and then poured gasoline and other flammables on the school and him, and set the whole thing on fire.
Burned him up.
You can't see someone be tortured like that, be burned alive, be publicly killed like that, and think there will be no consequence. It creates real psychological damage.
It was a black day for our county that they did what they did to this poor man.
That was a horrible, horrible thing. I suppose the people felt it was necessary at the time. We live in a civilized country. We're supposed to abide by laws, let the legal system run its course. But that's the history of our country. You get enough people riled up, and they're going to go do vigilante stuff.
I would think often that with vigilantes, it's a frustration that justice is not going to administer a type of punishment that would be appropriate to whatever the crime is. And then again, I think there are others who just love the opportunity to be mean.
That's these people's ancestors. It's a legacy that's been passed down towards vigilante violence. It's you saying, I'm independent, I'm gonna solve my crimes, and I'm gonna do it my way. And then when it's done, I'm sure it's done. That's the legacy that Skidmore is born on.
One of the things I really enjoy here are the birds. We have a lot of bald eagles and a lot of great blue herons. Beautiful woodland country, you know. I'm kind of a woodsy guy. I want to be in the woods a long way from everybody else. In Skidmore, and I'm sure many of the other little towns too, it depends on which family you belong to, what your last name is. If you're not a member of a certain family, you got a problem. I was an outsider. I did not have any family there.
I met Britt, I believe, the fall of 1970. He was the first man I'd ever met out of the jungle of Vietnam. He had a lot of pain that he tried hiding as well as he could, but I heard him sing for the first time, and I was absolutely amazed.
When I came back from Vietnam, I had 3 guys waiting for me to play in a band with them. By the end of the summer, we had 9 guys and a sound man. And the name of our band was Festival.
We started the group in 1973, and when we started, boy, we were going to hit big. We ended up performing for 27 years across the United States. And we were located in Skidmore.
Well, in '81, we bought this farm, and it was great. 300 acres, we had a lot of room to run around. You could run around naked out there, and there was nobody there.
We made no money. We just adopted that lifestyle of just sharing what we had.
It was like a little commune, you know, community living. There was a lot of skepticism about them by the community when they first started up. Most of it's because a lot of older people viewed them as maybe a drug and alcohol thing. Free sex, who knows what they thought.
It was not the Manson family. It was a very nice family. It was an American family. When we came into town, we were really looked down upon. People were very standoffish to us because we were hippies. You know, hippies. They didn't know what was going on out there.
They were suspicious of outsiders, yeah, because they knew the people that they knew.
I'd carry a double-barrel shotgun and walk into town with it in my hand.
There were a couple families that were not friendly to us, but they weren't friendly to a lot of people.
It was hard for outsiders to be accepted in Skidmore. And there were people that would move in and just wouldn't fit in, and so they'd just move back out. I mean, back then, Skidmore was just a really close-knit place.
I understand that you feel he was a loving husband and good man, but those people in Skidmore must have had some cause to fear him.
I mean, they disliked him. For the reason I don't know. I don't know if it's because of jealousy. I don't know. I don't know what the reason were.
In this town, if you're not theirs, you're not from there, or they don't want you there, they are extremely racist, prejudiced people. And they still think that it's okay what took place. The mentality is still there. It's exactly the same. Their hate, their mentality isn't just vigilante, it's just pure hate.
If you did not fit, they did not want you there. If you was not a part of who they were, what they were, then you were an outsider.
They think it's okay for them to do pretty much whatever they want to whoever they want. It doesn't matter. I don't think it would matter if it was a child that came through that town. If it didn't belong there or they didn't want it there, they're going to do the same thing that they did to us there.
This is the property where Ken Rex McElroy grew up until it mysteriously burned shortly after his death.
McElroy's house was burned to the ground, destroyed by arson.
They just did that to run her and the kids out of here and get them out of here. And I think that was the cruelest thing myself, but...
People are scared. My husband's other children, they've been shot at, and they're just scared to say anything about it.
Somebody burnt the house down, and then the kids, the law harassed them something bad, which was another terrible thing as far as I'm concerned.
But you got to remember, the law was involved with this killing. It wasn't like the sheriff and the police did not know, were not made aware of, didn't know what was happening. They knew what was happening. I know they were involved.
In rural communities and small towns, virtually everyone knows everyone. And so people become frustrated. They want immediate justice.
FBI agents came to town dressed like farmers, and now few will talk to outsiders at all.
The state investigation was to determine who killed Ken McElroy. The federal investigation was not to determine who committed the murder, but rather whether the sheriff was guilty of conspiracy or actually using his position to perpetrate the crime.
Ken Rex McElroy was murdered last July in a vigilante killing. With no one yet convicted, his widow wants justice done.
I think that if the cover-up were true, what we would be seeing is no investigation whatsoever, and quite the opposite is correct.
Initially, the investigation on Ken Rex McElroy would be under the direction of the sheriff. He makes the decision to activate the NOMA squad. At that point, NOMAS is leading the investigation for that short period of time. Shortly after Mr. McElroy's death, Mr. McFadden and Mrs. McElroy made contact with somebody on behalf of the federal government asking that the FBI run an investigation.
The FBI was involved because there was a perception by McElroy's widow and by McElroy's attorney that prompted the FBI to believe potentially that the sheriff had committed a federal crime. Color of law means essentially that the law enforcement official or public official uses that position to commit a crime. Murders occur all the time. Doesn't mean it's a federal crime. You cannot use the office that you hold as a state law enforcement officer to conspire to kill or to kill a citizen. In this particular case, the issue was the sheriff involved in a conspiracy to kill McElroy.
Danny was a sheriff for a lot of years. He was a local boy, okay? He and his twin were both cops. Danny was a sheriff. Lanny was with the Maryville Police Department here.
They're both probably 6 foot tall. Pretty good looking guys, really.
Do you feel that everyone in Skidmore is being as open with you as they could be?
That's something that I can't tell.
Yes, you can.
No, that's something that I can't tell. That's how do you say that you are as open to me as you would be with anyone else? That's
because I get the feeling right now that you're not being as open with me as you could be.
It's an opinion.
It's a feeling that I get.
It's an opinion. And I'm not going to give an opinion.
Okay. Good.
It doesn't take a lot of credentials to be a county sheriff in the state of Missouri. I think you get a gun permit and then you go to what's called law enforcement class for a few hours and you're given a certificate. And if you have that certificate, you can be a deputy sheriff in any county. I don't know how many shootings had occurred in Nottoway County that Sheriff Estes investigated. I'm sure there were a few. Nothing like this, where the whole town's involved.
As far as the people that's in this town, they were worse than McElroy. Worse than McElroy. If the law, they're not going to say nothing. The law is going to be with them. I've often thought about that with McElroy and Estes. I've often thought about that.
Were you at the scene?
At which
Scene
time?
Of the scene of the crime.
Yes, when it first took place.
And what did you see there? What did you find when you arrived?
Well, Mr. McElroy was sitting in a pickup truck in front of the tavern.
So if the sheriff was involved in this dirt, this puts a whole new light on everything.
Sheriff Danny Estes admitted in interviews that he attended that meeting.
They were having a meeting and they were telling the sheriff, you got to do something about him before he kills somebody else.
I don't know what his thinking was. He surely couldn't have thought, oh, this trouble's going to go away. It was just boiling.
Estes says he got back into his car and he started heading for Maryville, and got halfway to Maryville and got a call from his dispatcher that Ken Rex had been shot, so he turned back around and came to town. There's another rumor that he never even left town, that he stayed there while this was going on.
Danny Estes, he knew that they was going to kill McElroy. He was sitting outside of town, so when they called the law, he could be the one to come here.
I still thought they was going to kill me when they took me up to the bank.
Trina, she was going to call the law. Well, the ones that worked in the bank knew it was going to happen. And they told Trina to sit down and shut up, or you'll be the next one.
The first question is always the hardest. Actually, I need you to say and spell your name the way you want it to appear on TV.
DANNYR.ESTES.
How do you pronounce that?
Danny R. Estes.
You've got these scenarios, you've got these accusations, you've got these rumors that Estes came up with the idea, hey, we'll have this meeting, we'll get rid of him before he goes to jail, and I get away scot-free. You know, to me, that's a really, really, really wild theory. But you can't eliminate any theories because any of them might be true.
The day that he got shot, I could see the handwriting on the wall. I knew that the way it looked was that I had okayed a hit.
You know the facts. They had a meeting that morning, and the sheriff was there, and the sheriff leaves. And the discussion of that meeting was how to get rid of Ken Rex McElroy.
It's been asked why Sheriff Estes left that meeting after he knew that Ken Rex was just down the street and people were milling that way. I can't answer that. I can't speak for Danny. Did he make a bad decision? I think arguably yes. I probably would have stayed.
When they got word Ken Rex was in the pool hall and they wanted to go down and show force, why would the sheriff leave town then? We all assume that the sheriff would be there to keep the peace.
I could see that since I had been there, that the impression would be that I had okayed a shooting. And I knew that there was a civil rights violation. I knew the FBI was in the wings.
I know they had the meeting and there was a lot of people there. Most I know about is what the woman told me. This woman I knew back then, she was looking out a window and saw the whole thing. And she saw Danny Estes on the roof of the building across the street from where Ken was sitting in the pickup. She said he was the first one that shot.
If I was going to shoot that son of a bitch, I would have got him pissing off the porch about 7 o'clock in the morning. And I would have been a long, long, long way away, and no one would have known it.
The Department of Justice impaneled a federal grand jury this time. Federal grand juries are different than state grand juries. They have more resources at their disposal and more power.
The medical examiner's autopsy report concluded that McElroy was shot in the head that caused his death. Shot in the neck, there was a gunshot wound there. He was also shot 2 more times in the back. At least 2 shell casings were found. One was a .22, the other was higher caliber than the .22. Considering the number of bullets that were fired into McElroy, we can conclude that there were more than one shooter, of course.
The FBI subpoenaed almost every adult citizen in the city of Skidmore.
They were hauling Skidmore residents down right and left. Some of the stories were that people were almost on the verge of cracking, telling the FBI what was going on, and then they'd say, well, I'd like to think about it. And supposedly they'd go home and somebody in town, he'd say, well, if you want to live in Skidmore anymore, you keep your mouth shut. And the next morning they go to the FBI and they'd say to the FBI, I don't remember anything.
The FBI was called in, and they worked and they worked and they worked it. Which one shot him? Who actually put the shell in him? You had to have exactly, there had to be no doubt.
The FBI did subpoena people. They appeared before the federal grand jury in Kansas City. I asked the people what they saw when they looked to the right, and they would tell me what they saw. Were asked what they saw when they looked straight ahead, and the response was by all of them that Ken McElroy was in his truck with his wife, still parked there, had turned the engine on. Shots rang out, and McElroy was shot. I asked them what they saw when they looked to the left, and virtually all of them said they never looked to the left, with the exception of 3 individuals. They looked to the left and saw purportedly the shooter. An individual who lies to a federal grand jury is potentially liable for perjury. Remember that grand juries are part of the judicial process. And so when an individual lies under oath in the appropriate forum, they can be prosecuted for perjury.
Okay, so let's get real clear. How many eyewitnesses were there? Nobody has any idea. How many people were on the street? Nobody has any idea. You can go back to newspaper articles and they start off at 30 and they may end up at 90. So the question becomes, and the question that is, I believe, the crux to this case is how many eyewitnesses do you have that saw what happened?
I think the FBI thought it was going to be a cakewalk after the Northwest Missouri Investigation Squad got done with it. They were going to roll in and start picking up people off the street and solve this.
Federal officials today ended their investigation into the vigilante-style slaying of Ken Rex McElroy.
At the conclusion of the federal grand jury, they did not indict anyone.
I can't disclose exactly what the grand jury proceedings were. I can't tell you what they actually said to the grand jury. I've given you an idea, but at the conclusion of the grand jury proceeding, we had insufficient evidence that would suggest the sheriff was involved. So the state has the obligation then to prosecute the case.
They get affidavits from 3 people, and those 3 people came forward and they said, yes, we know who shot him, and they gave them the names, and that was sent to the county.
I gave 3 names to the local prosecutor. I released that information not because these individuals were involved in any crime, but rather they stated what they saw.
About 60 people witnessed the shooting, but none of them would say who did it. A U.S. attorney said he does have the name of a suspect and that he's turning it over to local authorities.
I don't really think Skidmore is any different than any of the other little towns that I've lived around. Pretty complacent, not much happens. Sit around and watch the grass grow and the cars rust. But it just hit me about 3 weeks ago. Somebody was crowing about, "Oh, don't mess with us, where's your Skidmore?" And it just hit me. Just hit me. This guy, no matter how bad he was or what, they had him outnumbered 60-1. And they shot him in the back. I'm asked a lot of times, why can this be 40 years ago and nobody's come forward with a name? People have come forward with a name since day one. How's this been kept quiet? It hasn't been. They've hid it right there on Main Street.
I said, aren't you ever going to quit talking?
No, I got new people to talk to.
Oh.
You ain't come seen me for 3 or 4 days, so I ain't had nobody to talk to.
Oh, I see.
So now I got new people telling my stories too.
Oh, are they listening?
No. No, but they're letting me talk.
Yeah. I wish there was a way, and me not get shot, that I could write a true story from McElroy up to now. But I know if I would open my mouth, it wouldn't be long till I'd be shot.
I tell everybody the names were given, but anytime you have that many people involved, they had a common goal, a common cause, and a common reasoning. So even if the names are correct, it doesn't matter. Nobody would prosecute them for what they done.
To my knowledge, the result of the FBI investigation was that they handed over a list of 3 names. 3 people who were witnesses. But murder is prosecuted by the state of Missouri. Pursue murder charges, prove their case, get a guilty verdict, and that lies strictly and solely with David Baird.
As prosecutor, I'm not supposed to take cases to trial to see what will happen. I'm only supposed to take cases to trial when I am convinced that I can obtain a conviction beyond a reasonable doubt.
I don't know how much information David Baird was given, but names, evidence that the FBI either came up with or verified, I'm sure all that was turned over to David Baird.
You have the wife of the party that was killed state on a coroner's inquest, yes, I saw this man point a gun, I saw him fire the gun, and he killed my husband.
In this particular case, given the level of evidence that we had, it was my estimation that we did not have sufficient evidence to go to trial.
If they knew that there was enough evidence to bring against someone and Mr. Byrd chose not to, he allowed killers to go free if he was unwilling to prosecute who needed to be prosecuted. He's not gonna go rush in, arrest the people that may or have did it, that you have enough evidence to claim did it, and have them sentenced, because you're gonna have a lynch mob on your hands.
You ask yourself a lot of times, is that just because it's a small town and it's a small county, and is that just how they do things? And everybody was really glad to get rid of Ken Rex McElroy, so, you know, I better not meddle in this.
They just as well have charged Skidmore, Missouri as a whole with the crime. Now, had they brought those names to trial, they would never have convicted them. They'd have been ruled justifiable homicide. I think that they would have went to court, spent 3 days debating it, had an O.J. Simpson trial, and then acquitted everybody. Justifiable homicide. Now, had they done that 40 years ago, where would that put our story today?
By this time, the city of Skidmore was tired. They were fatigued from all the reporters, with all the law enforcement interviews and the courtroom testimony that they'd been asked to give. And now pretty much everybody in Skidmore thought this is the end of it. It's finally over. But then almost 3 years after the murder of her husband, Trina McElroy files a civil suit. It's her last chance to get justice for her dead husband. It's her last chance for somebody to stand up and admit responsibility for the death of Ken Rex McElroy.
She was still fighting for him and his image as a man and father. Yes, she was.
The filings asked for millions of dollars. The defendants named were Del Clement, Steve Peters, who was the mayor of Skidmore at the time, Danny Estes, who was the sheriff of Nottoway County at the time, and the city of Skidmore.
You want the whole town to go on trial?
Yes. Yes, because I think the sheriff helped him set it up. They was all there. They seen what happened. It was the whole town.
I understand you're still apprehensive about anybody knowing your whereabouts.
Oh, yes.
Right. And there's been some threats made, as you're well aware.
Yeah.
The widow called me up. I said, they're going to federal court, and I think it's worth some real money.
There's no sense in taking any chances, Trina. I would be extremely cautious.
Yeah, I will.
Because we won't need it.
I have a feeling somebody was going to kill her. I have that feeling. Because they probably would have.
She said, they shot at my children. She said, my life's in danger. And she said, I want you to dismiss it. Told me to drop the lawsuit.
It never went to court. No testimonies were ever heard, no cross-examination ever occurred because it was settled out of court for $17,000. She's settled, and then she moves away. And that was the last that Skidmore ever saw of Trina McElroy, or really any McElroy.
The American judicial system failed in Skidmore, Missouri. It failed twice. As for Skidmore, no one is talking whether they have anything to say or not. They now feel secure, but they are still uneasy, for among them now, there is a murderer.
Second mark.
Okay, here we go. Now I'm ready.
Second mark.
Okay. Clear.
I know this is a tough question to answer. Look, McElroy cast a cloud over this town, there's no question. There was fear here. But aren't you now concerned that as bad as McElroy was, now that he's gone, this town has a dirty little secret, and that in its own way will have as bad an effect on the town as McElroy did?
No.
No.
Everything we do in life, every choice we make, there's a consequence for. The decisions and choices that you made, you had to live with for the rest of your lives. If it destroyed the town and it destroyed, you know, other people's lives within that town because of the decisions that those people made on that day, that's the burdens you carry for that.
That wasn't the first incident of violence in the community, but then it seems like we had an outbreak.
Was it murder? Yes. What did it do to the people? Changed them forever.
The people who were involved in this and the people who covered it up think they may have been doing a good thing for the community. They didn't realize, I suspect, or they don't care, that their children are going to be negatively affected by this, that the outside world is negatively affected by this. It perpetuates itself. When's the next type of situation going to occur when the community turns on an individual? I mean, that's a real danger. If you have young people who are aware of that, where does it leave them?
I do think that that town holds kind of a curse. Basically, it's a death for anybody that's there.
A part of the town died that day. I think I counted 9 mysterious, horrible, or strange deaths that has happened since Ken Rex died.
Benny went to his ex-wife's yard and hung himself. Wally McGinnis's son was hanging in the garage. And Wendy getting murdered by her boyfriend, her jealous boyfriend. He'd been abusing her for a long time. Branson Perry comes up missing. Yeah, it looks like you could say all these things are all related because Skidmore has got some evil people in it. Well, that's all BS too.
No, people think that. And there's nothing dangerous about Skidmore, but per capita, the violent deaths in and around Skidmore are pretty high.
This is the 3rd member of this family to be murdered in the last 4 years.
Bobby Jo Stinnett was strangled on Thursday, her body mutilated, and prosecutors explain they're proceeding cautiously.
You took down one man, and you acted like you did some humongous great thing. And in that, it bred hate. You're still okay with what you did, you're still keeping a secret, but you're paying with your soul.
Is Skidmore paying the price for killing Ken Rex McElroy? Whether I believe it's a curse or not, apparently they are, aren't they?